What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is Chishu Zed.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
In today's day and age, women are taught that they need to put their career first before relationships, before motherhood, and we're finally seeing the results of that. But is that a lie? Have they been scammed? No more wasting time. Let's get it.
Okay, wait till you see this.
Most women want to have a career.
Well, I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that for a second. You're telling me what you've been told and what you've been told to believe, not what you actually believe and not what's actually the case. No, I don't believe for a second that most women want to work and most women want to have a career. That's PR. That's propaganda. I mean, you can't say honestly that you think that most women want to work and also say that women have equal intelligence as men, because if they have equal intelligence as men, what intelligent person would choose to work if they had a choice not to? I know a man wouldn't, if given the choice. No, I know that most women don't want to work. I don't need to see the statistics. I know that most women don't want to work because I work. So I know what it's like. No, you can only convince a woman or anyone else that it's wonderful. It's just so fulfilling to dress up in business clothes and go to an office all day if they've never worked. You can maybe sell that message to young, inexperienced people, but anyone who has been in the workforce for any length of time will tell you it is not exactly living the dream. But you know who is living the dream? You know who really is living the dream? Married women in Dubai, married women in Saudi Arabia, and not just because they get to go on shopping sprees with their husbands', gold credit cards, but because due to the fact that they have so much support from their family, so much support from their husbands, so much support from their fathers, so much support from what you would call patriarchy. You probably didn't know that women in the UAE and women in Saudi Arabia own a higher percentage of small and medium-sized businesses than women in America, by at least 10%. That's ownership. That's entrepreneurship, not employeeship. But of course, they're oppressed, right? No, most people don't want to work. Now, obviously, there are exceptions. And there are people who can, genuinely derive a lot of satisfaction from their work. But we all know that they could find infinite other ways to achieve that and better than that level of satisfaction if they weren't wage slaves and had control of their time.
Okay, I'm really glad he said that. And I agree with that, by the way, because finding satisfaction in what you're doing is important in life. But there are definitely different ways you can find satisfaction than working a job that you absolutely hate. Most people don't enjoy the work that they do. We know that it's achievements and achieving goals in life that gives people meaning, purpose. But if you hate what you're doing, and that's most Americans here in the West, if you hate your job, then that reward may not seem as worth it. And that's not me saying people should quit their jobs, but it simply means that a lot of people are working because they have to, because they have no other choice. But what the media will push is women are empowered when they work. A woman who is happy and satisfied with meaning in her life is a career woman who's happy. And that's just far from the truth. I think there was a stat that I remember seeing a while back that talked about women who are single and earn up to 100K or more, the most unhappy demographic in the US. Let's keep listening.
Should women have the right to work? You understand what incredibly deceptive language that is? In your society, do they have the right not to work? That's a better question. I mean, look at how they manipulate language around this issue. Instead of just saying you have to work, they say that you have a career or you have a job, as if it's something that you've gained, as if it's something, something that you have, rather than talking about all the things that you lose by having that, all of the things that you have to let go in order to keep hold of that job. They say you have a career, but what they mean is your employer has you. And that's where you spend most of your time. That's where you spend, most of your waking hours, 8, 9, 10 hours a day.
Right.
Plus however long it takes you to commute. So maybe up to around half of a 24-hour day. You are either going to work, at work, or coming home from work. And then you get, if you're lucky, maybe 4 to 5 hours a day off, 4 to 5 hours a day left of free time. Look at that phrase, free time. Because, yes, in your free, democratic, liberated, independent country, most citizens only get about 4 to 5 hours a day of freedom. Because the rest of the time, you're at work. And work is extremely not democratic, not free, and you have no independence.
Hey guys, have you heard the good news? Well, you can now follow me on Instagram. Why should you care? Well, because there are people out here trying to censor coffee. In fact, they want to ban it. And so for those of you that can, giving me a follow on Instagram will guarantee that you have another point of contact. Plus, you'll be able to check out some cool content that I share with my followers exclusively on IG, like this video.
I ain't splitting the bills 50-50 with no man. I'd rather pay them by myself and be independent. So instead of splitting a $2,000 rent and having a band in your pocket, you'd rather be broke just to say you didn't go half with a man. Exactly. Stand for something or you'll fall for anything as a woman. I do not think that is what the that means.
You know, you do what you're told. You wear what you're told. You eat when they let you. Your time is not your own. In some places, you even have to ask permission to use the restroom. So most of your waking hours are actually spent in a thoroughly totalitarian environment, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And you get maybe 4 to 5 hours a day of freedom. And you're telling me that women want that? No. The system wants that for women.
They've convinced them that they want it. If you hear them here, they'll tell you that that's what they want. But it doesn't take long for even the strong, independent women to realize that I want somebody to do this life with.
And it has made it largely unavoidable because the cost of living is too high. Or anyway, the cost of supporting the lifestyle or maintaining the lifestyle that your society teaches you that you must have if you are to be regarded as a worthwhile and successful human being. They made it necessary for women to work. And human beings have a great capacity to convince themselves that they are actually in favor of things that have been imposed upon them. So they tell themselves that they actually want the thing that they have no choice but to accept. Then, of course, on top of that, you have all this propaganda about how wonderful and how fulfilling it is to sell your time and your labor to an employer.
That convincing yourself is also a great way to survive difficult situations, right? Could be a tool for power.
To rent yourself out to your employer. And you have people, excuse me, but like yourself, spreading the propaganda. It's no different really from, you know, how you have women in human works, women who procure women. It's basically the same thing. It's just different in the severity of the consequences. But both types of people are lying and making false promises about the servitude and drudgery that they are actually dragging women into on the basis of, you know, promises of how wonderful it's going to be and how much they deserve all of the great things that are going to come to you if you listen to me and do what I said. When actually you're just going to become a wage slave. Just like in a human trafficking thing, you're going to become an actual slave. And it's the same for everybody. I mean, if you could actually remove from the workforce everyone who does not genuinely find fulfillment and satisfaction from their job, you would have extremely few workers left of either sex. Men find fulfillment usually not from the work itself. Most of the time, it's not from the work itself, but it's from the fact that they are successfully providing for their families. So they sell their souls to the company store, as the old song says, for the sake of their loved ones. And they find some level of gratification from that, and it gives them a sense of purpose, even doing the most, you know, mundane, difficult, and tedious work. And there's honor in that because it involves a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice that you do for your family. But no, most women don't want to work because, of course, they don't. Most people don't want to work. So, I mean, think it through. There are exceptions, but exceptions notwithstanding, most people don't want to work, but you have to be propagandized into it. This is propaganda. It's just like when Edward Bernays, the father of modern PR, got women to start smoking cigarettes for his customer, for his client, by connecting the smoking of cigarettes with women's lib. Just as that was unhealthy for women, this is unhealthy for women. Just as that was for the sake of someone else's profits, so is this. It's just propaganda. But don't at least tell yourself that this is good for you and you want it just because it's what business wants for you. When women go to the workplace, they're not breaking down barriers. They are erecting barriers around themselves. And men know that because we've been in those barriers all our lives. We know what it's like to be in the workplace. We know that all of this propaganda is propaganda. It's not a wonderful thing to go out into the workforce. Women have, the domestic life of women traditionally has been a socialist utopia. Why would you leave that?
After seeing that video, I have to really reevaluate my life choices because I never thought of it this way. I also begin to realize that as a female, I need to really be careful because females are highly susceptible to propaganda. How did we ever believe that becoming a wage slave is empowering? Being owned by a corporation. After I had my daughter, I had the privilege of being home with her for 6 months. But feminism instills within us a belief that being at home with your child or in any capacity is aligned with slavery, and that work outside of the home is freedom.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts? And they'll bow down to their bosses. They'll do whatever their bosses tell them to. But to do that to a man is slavery and misogynistic.
I'm beginning to think I'm stupid. And I think I have a relatively decent brain. Relatively. But I'm beginning to think I'm dumb. When I was home with my baby, despite what feminism tells me, that I should have hated it, I actually loved it. Not only did I create a new little human being, but while I was home, I got to really focus on my body. I transformed myself. I had the time to do that. I also finally got the chance to write. I mean, really throw myself into my writing. I also played video games. I got to focus on my sewing. All of these things I could not do if I was outside being a debt slave. But after my 6 months was up, I had to go back to my 9 to 5. And guess what? All those fun things I didn't have time for anymore. I realize now I've been duped. I get this feeling like the emperor's new clothes. When the peddler is trying to sell something to you, they're selling you nudity and telling you it's the best outfit ever. And you step out in it and you're an absolute clown.
Wow. There's some coffee for you right there. There is some coffee. How you guys doing, man? Still here with us. As always, we're going to check out some of these comments. There's a lot said there. First comment here says, biologically, we are not wired to work. We're wired to connect, nurture, do things that we love, and that brings joy in our body. I do want to say this. I believe women were wired to work. It's just a different type of work. I don't like to diminish the importance of a woman who decides to stay home because I think social media and modern day culture shit on women who decide to be stay-at-home moms. And it comes with its own complications. But a woman who wants to stay at home more than she works and enter the type of relationship where two people embrace their gender roles, they get called lazy or get told that they're setting feminism back years when the truth is it's important work. You're raising up children. You're their first teacher. There's importance in that. Now, is it as hard as hunting and being a man, being out there dealing with the competition of other men who want to see you fall and you're trying to bring meat back home? No, I don't think it's as difficult. That doesn't mean that it's not as important. But I think, especially in today's day and age, in today's competitive job market, it's a lot of work. Here's another comment by another person that says, I told my husband I want to stay at home. He made me resign the very next day. I've been living my very best life ever since. Congratulations to this woman. And she's privileged to have the type of man who can take care of her and is willing to work harder to pay all the bills. Another woman here says, I don't want to work, yet at the same time, I will never rely on someone to financially support me. People can suddenly switch up on you. Well, this is exactly the type of woman that probably should stay in the workforce. And I will say this, I think as a woman, you want to protect yourself. And I think a lot of men who are naive look at the type of situation where a woman's a stay-at-home mom and they think, well, that's the perfect situation. Well, sometimes not really. I think it's important that a lot of women today who might be considering staying at home more than they work still keep some sort of job, because the tendency for women to think that they're doing more work in the house than the man is doing outside of the house just is way too common. And guys, here's another thing to consider. This is really important. Shout out to the lead attorney. Sometimes videos that are just very popular and perform really well would just make their way to my feed. And I remember seeing one video by the lead attorney, and he was talking about how a lot of guys don't understand that when couples get divorced, a lot of the decisions that are made within family court are also based on the tradition that's been set within a household. So if you set the type of tradition where your woman does not work, that tradition will be prioritized because they don't want to create any type of friction or imbalance to what was previously working within the home. So for example, your woman may have a degree, but if she hasn't worked in 5 years because you're okay with her not working, or you marry some chick who has never had any type of job that could really contribute significantly to a household, or you're setting the type of tradition that the courts will honor. So you want to think about these things. For guys out here who are thinking, well, I just will have her not work, they're going to look at you in case of a divorce and say, well, she hasn't been working. Why should she work now? Here's how much more you'd be expected to pay in alimony and to take care of your wife. Let's check out more of these comments. Another commenter here says, I don't want to work. Crying emoji. Somebody else here, chick says, I have a career and master's. I don't want to work. I have to. I want to take care of a home and cook and garden, but it will never happen, she says. It will never happen. As you guys have probably seen here, the recurring issue is eventually women get to this point where they're like, you know what? I actually don't want this strong and independent lifestyle where I'm taking care of myself. I'd love to finally find a man to take care of me. And listen, I'm willing to do what it takes. But what's happened? Well, they've now priced themselves out of the dating market. The juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore. He wanted to take care of you back when you were 20 or late 20s, even early 30s, maybe even your late 30s. But at that point, you're pushing it. At around 40 years old, the guy's looking at you like, hey, you're going to have to work. Most guys aren't looking at it like they're getting a fair trade from the situation. Here's another comment from another woman that says, I'm 40, got married at 20, been at home ever since. I knew I didn't have to work. Hubby provided. Plus, child is grown now. I can do whatever I want. So she's 40 years old, and while other women are struggling, she's over here enjoying the benefits of not only being a stay-at-home mom, but not initiating divorce and leaving her man. So that's the other mistake that's made. Here's another woman that says, I definitely don't want to work. I want to iron my husband's socks and have dinner ready. I'm tired of carrying my household. Yep, you and almost 2,000 people who liked her comment. Chances are, guys, she's past that wall. She isn't necessarily the best candidate for that situation. Another woman here says, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I can confirm this. I don't want to work. I do, however, want to be a business owner. Business also becomes more realistic or attainable for a lot of stay-at-home moms just because of the pressure and the time that they have on their hands. They don't have as much pressure is what I mean. And they have more time. Here's another comment that says, I work in retail as a cashier and we have to ask permission to use the restroom and we get written down how long we went to the restroom for. Damn. Yeah. Listen, I've worked in warehouses. I know the struggle. Another comment here says, I'm a career man. I don't want to do this. I'm rising as quick as I can so I can retire as quick as possible. Part of the misconception a lot of women have with men who work hard. It's like they look at these men and think you must enjoy what you do because you just work all the time. That's not always the case. Most men don't enjoy working. What they enjoy are the goals they reach, the progress they make to possibly hit retirement. And few men just enjoy working very, very hard. I think I'm someone who probably leans towards actually enjoys working depending on what I'm doing. Listen, guys, as always, I'm curious to know, what do you think? Leave your comments down below. I appreciate you checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pot. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.